I never thought a single gift could destroy me. My name is Elena and I'm 26 years old. But honestly, that is all you need to know about me for now, because what truly matters isn't who I was, but what I became after that day. It started so simply, so harmlessly. A box wrapped in shimmering silver paper, tied with a ribbon that caught the light just so. My sister handed it to me with a smile that felt so warm, almost protective. I remember the way her eyes lingered on mine, as if she was willing me to believe this was a gesture of pure love. And I did. I desperately wanted to believe it. The gift itself wasn't extraordinary, at least not at first glance. It was a necklace, delicate and understated. The kind of thing you'd expect from someone who knew you inside and out. She said it was meant to remind me of our bond, of all the years we had spent side by side, surviving the storms of our family and the chaos of growing up together. I held it in my hands, feeling the cool weight of the chain against my skin. And for a fleeting moment, I thought it was beautiful. But beauty can be so deceptive. I didn't know then that the necklace was more than just a symbol. It was a key. A key to secrets I was never supposed to uncover, to betrayals I wasn't meant to see. I had no idea that by accepting it, I was walking straight into a trap, one that had been carefully, meticulously laid out just for me. She laughed when I put it on, a soft, light laugh that carried no malice, or so I thought. "It suits you," she said, her fingers brushing against my shoulder. I remember the sudden chill that ran down my spine, but I dismissed it as nothing, just nerves. Just the weight of sentiment. But looking back, there was something in her tone. Something I couldn't quite place at the time, a hesitation, maybe? A flicker of satisfaction that just didn't belong in a moment of sisterly affection. I wore that necklace proudly, completely unaware of the shadow it was casting over my life. I didn't realize that every compliment I received, every glance it drew, was all part of her design. I didn't realize that she had planted something in my life that would slowly grow into poison, seeping into every part of my world. Looking back, I wonder if she knew just how easily I trusted her. How desperately I clung to the idea that family meant safety. Maybe that was her greatest advantage. Maybe she understood that my guard would never, ever rise against her. And so, I smiled. I thanked her, I believed her. The days that followed seemed so ordinary, almost peaceful. I went about my routines, carrying the necklace like a badge of love. But beneath that calm surface, cracks were already forming, small, invisible fractures in the very foundation of my world. I couldn't see them yet, but I could feel them like faint whispers in the dark. Like the low hum of something waiting to break. There were moments when I'd catch her watching me, her gaze too intense, too calculating. I would just brush it off, telling myself I was imagining things. After all, she was my sister. Why would she ever want to hurt me? That question haunted me long before I had the courage to even ask it aloud. I should have paid more attention to the way her smile lingered just a little too long. The way her words always seemed to carry double meanings. I should have noticed the silence between us. The pauses that stretched into something deeply uncomfortable. But I didn't. I was blind and she knew it. The necklace became a part of me, and with it, so did her plan. I never thought a single gift could destroy me, but it did. It unraveled everything I ever believed about love, loyalty, and trust. It turned my world into a battlefield where the enemy was someone I had once called my closest ally. If only I had known what she was hiding behind that smile. Back then, I believed family was my safe place. I thought the walls of our home were strong enough to keep out the world's cruelty. That the bond between sisters was something unbreakable, something sacred. I lived in a rhythm that felt ordinary, even comforting. My mornings began with the smell of coffee drifting through the kitchen, the hum of the radio playing songs I barely listened to, and the quiet certainty that life was steady, predictable. I was Elena, 26 years old, and I carried myself with the kind of innocence that only comes from believing you're protected. I worked, I laughed, I dreamed. My life wasn't extraordinary, but it was mine, and I cherished the simplicity of it. I had friends who trusted me, neighbors who greeted me warmly, and a sister who, at least in those days, I thought was my closest ally. We shared everything, or so I believed, secrets whispered late at night, plans for the future, even the small frustrations of daily life. She was the one person I thought I could lean on without hesitation. When I stumbled, she was there. When I doubted myself, she reminded me of my worth, or at least, that's how it seemed. There's a kind of blindness that comes with comfort. You stop questioning, you stop looking for cracks, you assume that love is enough to shield you from betrayal. I lived in that blindness, wrapped in the illusion that nothing could shatter the bond we had. But safety is the first illusion that shatters. I remember evenings when we'd sit together, laughing about trivial things, sharing stories that felt endless. I thought those moments were proof of loyalty, evidence that blood truly meant something. I didn't realize they were rehearsals for deception. That behind her laughter was a silence I hadn't learned to hear. My days were filled with small joys, reading late into the night, walking through the park, dreaming about the kind of life I wanted to build. I believed I was moving forward step by step towards something brighter. And she was always there, watching, listening, smiling. It's strange how memory works. When I look back now, I see shadows where I once saw light. I noticed the pauses in her words, the way her eyes sometimes lingered too long, the subtle tension that I dismissed as nothing. But at the time, I was blind to it all. I was too busy believing in the story of us, the story of sisters who would never betray each other. I thought I knew her. I thought I understood her heart, and yet, beneath the surface, something was shifting. She began to weave herself deeper into my life. Not just as a sister, but as a presence I couldn't escape. She asked questions that seemed harmless but carried weight. She offered advice that sounded supportive but left me unsettled. She gave me gifts, small ones at first, tokens of affection that I accepted without suspicion. I didn't realize those gifts were breadcrumbs, leading me down a path I couldn't see. There were moments when I felt uneasy, though I couldn't explain why, a glance that lingered too long, a smile that seemed rehearsed, a silence that stretched between us. I brushed it off, convincing myself that I was imagining things. After all, she was my sister. She loved me, didn't she? That's the danger of trust. It blinds you to the truth until it's too late. I lived in a world where betrayal was unthinkable, where the idea of her hurting me was impossible, and yet, even then, the seeds were already planted. Seeds of envy, of resentment, of something darker I couldn't name. I didn't see it. I couldn't. Instead, I carried on with my life, believing in the safety of family, believing in the bond we shared. I thought I was building a future with her by my side. I thought I was safe. But safety is fragile. It cracks under the weight of secrets. It collapses when trust is poisoned. And soon, her presence in my life would grow heavier, more consuming. The sister I thought I knew would begin to reveal herself in ways I never expected. If only I had understood then that the gift she gave me wasn't the beginning of love, it was the beginning of betrayal. She said it was a token of love. I didn't realize it was a weapon. The day she gave me the gift is etched into my memory with a clarity that feels almost cruel. It was a quiet afternoon. The kind where the air feels heavy with silence and the smallest sound seems amplified. She walked into my room carrying a box wrapped in silver paper. The kind of wrapping that shimmered under the light, catching my attention immediately. Here, she said, her voice soft, almost tender. I wanted you to have this. I remember the way my heart lifted at her words. Gifts between us weren't unusual, but there was something different about this one. Something deliberate. I took the box from her hands, feeling the weight of it, the coolness of the paper against my skin. When I pulled the ribbon loose and lifted the lid, I gasped. Inside was a necklace, delicate yet striking. The chain was fine, almost fragile, but the pendant was bold, a small, intricate design shaped like a teardrop with a stone that glowed faintly under the light. It wasn't flashy, but it carried a quiet elegance, the kind of beauty that made you look twice. It's beautiful, I whispered, my fingers brushing against the pendant. She smiled. That same smile I had seen 1,000 times before. But this time it lingered. It reminded me of you, she said, strong but graceful. I thought you'd like it. I did like it. More than that, I felt moved. It wasn't just a necklace, it was a symbol. A reminder of our bond, of the years we had spent together, surviving the chaos of our family, leaning on each other when no one else seemed to understand. I thought it was proof of her love, proof that she valued me as much as I valued her. I slipped the necklace around my neck, feeling the cool weight settle against my skin. For a moment, I felt proud, almost radiant. Thank you, I said, my voice thick with emotion. This means a lot. Her eyes met mine, and for a fleeting second, I thought I saw something there, something sharp, something hidden, but it vanished as quickly as it appeared, replaced by warmth. It suits you, she said, brushing her fingers lightly against my shoulder. That touch sent a chill down my spine, though I dismissed it. I told myself it was just the intensity of the moment, the weight of sentiment. I didn't want to question it. I didn't want to ruin the beauty of what I thought was a gesture of love. The necklace became part of me almost instantly. I wore it everywhere, letting it rest against my skin like a badge of affection. Friends noticed it, complimented it, asked where I had gotten it. Each time, I smiled and said, my sister gave it to me, and each time, I felt a surge of pride, as if her gift was proof of something unbreakable between us. But beauty can be deceptive. There were moments, small, fleeting moments when I caught her watching me. Her gaze lingered too long, her smile too measured. I brushed it off, convincing myself I was imagining things. After all, she was my sister. Why would she look at me like that? Still, the unease grew. One evening, as we sat together, I touched the pendant absent-mindedly, tracing its edges. It's perfect, I said softly. I don't know how you found something so me. She tilted her head, her smile curling at the edges. I know you better than anyone, she replied. Better than you think. Her words should have comforted me, but instead, they unsettled me. Better than I think. What did she mean by that? I laughed it off, but the question lingered, gnawing at me in the quiet hours of the night. The necklace began to feel heavier, though I knew it hadn't changed. It was the same delicate chain, the same glowing stone. But the weight wasn't physical, it was emotional. It carried something I couldn't name, something that pressed against me with invisible force. I started to wonder if the gift was more than it seemed. She said it was a token of love. But sometimes, when I caught her staring, I thought I saw satisfaction in her eyes, as if she had accomplished something I couldn't understand. I tried to shake the feeling, tried to remind myself of the bond we shared. Sisters don't betray each other, sisters don't give gifts with hidden motives. But the thought lingered, whispering in the back of my mind, what if this wasn't about love at all? The necklace was beautiful, yes, but beauty can hide poison. And as much as I wanted to believe in her, as much as I wanted to trust the gift she had given me, I couldn't ignore the unease that grew each time I wore it. Admiration was slowly giving way to suspicion. Her words didn't match her eyes anymore. At first, it was subtle, so subtle I convinced myself I was imagining it. A pause too long before she answered me, a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes, a tone of voice that carried something sharp beneath its softness. I wanted to believe she was the same sister I had always trusted, the same person who had handed me that necklace with warmth. But the cracks were beginning to show, and once I noticed them, I couldn't unsee them. She started disappearing at odd hours, claiming she had errands or meetings that didn't make sense. When I asked where she had been, her answers were vague, stitched together with half-truths. Just out with friends, she'd say. But her phone would buzz late at night, and she'd silence it quickly, turning the screen away from me. I remember one evening when I confronted her lightly, trying to mask my suspicion with humor. "You've been busy lately," I teased. "Secret life I don't know about," she laughed, but it was hollow. "Don't be ridiculous," she said, brushing me off. Yet her eyes flickered, darting away from mine, and in that moment, I felt the distance between us widen. Her words didn't match her eyes anymore. The necklace became a symbol of that unease. I wore it every day, but instead of pride, I began to feel a strange heaviness. It was as if the pendant carried her secrets, pressing against my skin, whispering things I couldn't yet understand. I caught myself touching it absent-mindedly, tracing its edges, wondering if it was more than just a gift. Whispers reached me, fragments of conversations I wasn't meant to hear. Friends mentioned seeing her in places she hadn't told me about, with people I didn't know. One even asked casually, "Wasn't she supposed to be with you last night?" I forced a smile, pretending I wasn't surprised, but inside, suspicion grew like a shadow. The inconsistencies piled up. She promised me things and forgot them. She claimed to care, yet her actions betrayed indifference. She spoke of loyalty, but her eyes carried something else, something I couldn't name, but felt deeply. I began to watch her more closely. The way she avoided certain topics, the way she changed the subject when I asked simple questions, the way she seemed almost satisfied when I looked confused. One night, I overheard her on the phone. She was in the kitchen, her voice low, urgent. I couldn't make out all the words, but I caught fragments. "She doesn't know, not yet, just wait." My heart pounded as I stood in the hallway, frozen, listening to the rhythm of betrayal in her tone. When she noticed me, she hung up quickly, forcing a smile. "Just work stuff," she said. But her eyes betrayed her again. Her words didn't match her eyes anymore. I tried to confront her directly once, asking, "Is there something you're not telling me?" She tilted her head, feigning innocence. "Why would you think that?" "Because you're different," I whispered. "You're hiding something." Her smile widened, but it was sharp, almost mocking. "You're imagining things," she said. "You always overthink." Maybe I did overthink, but the unease was real. The necklace became unbearable. I couldn't take it off. It felt wrong to remove it, but wearing it felt like carrying a secret I didn't understand. Every time I looked at it, I thought of her words, her eyes, the lies she wrapped in laughter. I started to feel trapped, as if the gift had bound me to her deception. The tension grew between us. Conversations turned shallow, filled with empty words. She avoided me more often, and when we were together, silence stretched longer than it should. I felt like I was losing her, but worse, I felt like she was deliberately pulling away, building a wall I couldn't climb. And then there were the looks. Those lingering glances, filled with something I couldn't decipher. Was it envy? Resentment? Satisfaction? I didn't know, but I knew it wasn't love. Her words didn't match her eyes anymore, and I couldn't ignore it. I began to question everything, our bond, our history, even the moments I once thought were genuine. Were they all lies? Had she been planning this all along? The whispers, the secrets, the inconsistencies, they weren't coincidences. They were pieces of a puzzle I hadn't yet assembled. And then I found out what she had done. It wasn't just betrayal, it was annihilation. The truth came to me in fragments, like shards of glass cutting through the illusion I had clung to at first. It was whispers, rumors I dismissed, half-truths I tried to ignore, but then the pieces began to fit together, forming a picture I couldn't deny. And when I finally saw it, when I finally understood what she had done, it felt like the ground beneath me had collapsed. The necklace wasn't just a gift. It was a tool. A symbol of control, of manipulation. She hadn't given it to me out of love. She had given it to me to mark me, to bind me to her scheme. I discovered it one evening when I overheard a conversation I wasn't meant to hear. She was in the living room, speaking in hushed tones to someone on the phone. I stayed hidden in the hallway, my heart pounding, my breath shallow. She wears it every day, she said, her voice sharp, calculated. She doesn't suspect a thing. It's perfect, my stomach twisted. Perfect. What was perfect? What was she talking about? The person on the other end laughed, a sound that made my skin crawl. Good, keep her close. She'll never see it coming. I froze, my mind racing. Keep me close? Never see it coming. I wanted to burst into the room, demand answers, but I couldn't move. I stood there, paralyzed, listening to the sound of my sister conspiring against me. Later, when I confronted her, she didn't deny it. She didn't even flinch. What's going on? I asked, my voice trembling. What did you mean by that? Who were you talking to? She looked at me, her eyes cold, her smile sharp. You wouldn't understand, she said. It's bigger than you, bigger than me, I repeated, my voice breaking. You gave me that necklace. You said it was a token of love. Her laugh was bitter, mocking. Love? You really believed that? It was never about love. It was about control. About proving that I could make you trust me, even as I destroyed you. Her words cut deeper than any blade. I felt my chest tighten, my breath catch. The sister I had trusted, the sister I had loved, was admitting without shame that she had betrayed me. It wasn't just betrayal. It was annihilation. I stumbled back, shaking my head. Why? Why would you do this to me? Her eyes gleamed with satisfaction. Because you've always had everything. The attention, the admiration, the trust. I wanted to show you that none of it mattered. That I could take it all away with one simple gesture. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My sister, the person I thought was my closest ally, had orchestrated this entire scheme out of envy, out of resentment. The necklace wasn't a gift, it was a weapon. A reminder that she could twist my world with a single act. I felt the weight of it against my skin, heavier than ever. I wanted to rip it off, throw it away, but I couldn't. It was as if it had fused with me, a scar I couldn't erase. I broke down that night. Alone in my room, I cried until my body ached, until my voice was hoarse. I replayed her words over and over, each one a dagger. It was never about love. It was about control. I thought of all the moments we had shared, all the laughter, all the secrets. Were they all lies? Had she been planning this all along? The bitterness consumed me. I felt betrayed not just by her actions, but by my own blindness. How could I have missed the signs? How could I have trusted her so completely? I wanted to scream, to tear the walls down, to make her feel the pain she had inflicted on me. But instead, I sat in silence, the necklace burning against my skin, a constant reminder of her deception. And then, in the quiet of that night, I turned to you, the audience, the witness to my confession. What would you have done if it were you? Would you have confronted her? Would you have walked away? Or would you have done what I began to do, let the bitterness harden into resolve? Because betrayal doesn't just break you, it reshapes you. I realized then that I couldn't stay in the place of devastation forever. I couldn't let her win, couldn't let her see me crumble. If she wanted to destroy me, she would have to face the consequences. The tears dried, replaced by something darker. A quiet, simmering rage. A resolve that grew stronger with every breath. She thought she had annihilated me. She thought she had proven her power. But what she didn't realize was that betrayal doesn't end with destruction. It awakens something else, something sharper, something stronger. I looked at the necklace one last time, my fingers tracing the pendant. It was no longer a symbol of love, it was a symbol of war. And in that moment, I made a decision. If she wanted to play games, I would play too. If she wanted to destroy me, I would show her what destruction really looked like. It wasn't just betrayal, it was annihilation. But annihilation can be the beginning of something new, and so, from devastation, I began to move toward resolve. I stopped crying. I started planning. The night I learned the truth, something inside me broke. But it wasn't the kind of break that leaves you fragile, it was the kind that reshapes you entirely. I had spent hours curled up, sobbing until my body ached, until my throat burned. Yet when the tears finally dried, what remained wasn't weakness. It was something darker. I used to be soft. I used to believe in love, in loyalty, in the sanctity of family. That version of me, the one who trusted blindly, who wore her sister's gift with pride, was gone. In her place stood someone colder, sharper. Someone who no longer cared about innocence. I looked at myself in the mirror, the necklace glinting against my skin. It mocked me, a reminder of her betrayal. But instead of tearing it off, I let it stay. It became a symbol of my transformation, proof that I could carry the weight of her lies and turn it into something she would never expect. People noticed the change in me. Friends asked if I was okay, if something was wrong. I brushed them off with bitter smiles. I'm fine, I'd say, though my voice carried an edge that unsettled them. One friend pressed further, her concern genuine. You don't seem like yourself lately, I laughed. But it was hollow. Maybe I'm finally becoming who I was meant to be, she frowned, confused. What does that mean? I didn't answer. How could I explain that the person I used to be had died the moment my sister revealed her betrayal? How could I tell her that I was no longer the Elena she knew, but someone forged in bitterness and rage? At work, colleagues noticed my silence. I stopped engaging in small talk, stopped laughing at jokes. I kept to myself, my mind consumed by thoughts I couldn't share. One coworker tried to lighten the mood, teasing me about my seriousness. You're always so intense these days, he said. I looked at him, my eyes cold. Intensity is the only thing that keeps me alive, he didn't joke with me again. The contrast between who I was and who I was becoming was stark. I used to find joy in small things, books, music, walks in the park. Now, those things felt meaningless. Every moment was consumed by her betrayal, every thought twisted into bitterness. I couldn't escape it, and I didn't want to. I began to isolate myself, pulling away from those who cared. I didn't want their comfort. I didn't want their pity. I wanted silence, space to think, to plan. At home, the tension between my sister and me grew unbearable. She noticed the change, though she pretended not to. You're quiet lately, she said one evening, her tone feigning concern. I looked at her, my voice steady but sharp. Quiet doesn't mean weak, she tilted her head, smiling faintly. You're imagining things again, but I wasn't imagining anything. I saw her clearly now, stripped of the illusions I once clung to. Every word she spoke was a lie, every smile a mask. And I hated her for it. The bitterness seeped into my interactions with her. I stopped pretending, stopped playing the role of the trusting sister. When she tried to joke, I responded with silence. When she offered advice, I dismissed it coldly. When she asked if I was okay, I answered with venom. Do you really care? I asked once, my voice dripping with sarcasm. She blinked, taken aback. Of course I care. I leaned closer, my eyes locked on hers. Then prove it, tell me the truth, her smile faltered. But she recovered quickly. You're being dramatic. I laughed bitterly. No, I'm being honest. Something you should try sometime. She didn't respond. The unraveling wasn't just emotional, it was psychological. I began to see the world differently through a lens of suspicion and mistrust. Every gesture, every word, every glance carried hidden meaning. I analyzed everything, dissected every interaction, searching for lies, and yet, beneath the bitterness, something else was growing. A quiet, simmering resolve. I stopped crying. I started planning. I didn't tell anyone what I was planning. I didn't write it down, didn't speak it aloud. It lived inside me, a secret that pulsed with every heartbeat. I teased it in my thoughts, shaping it slowly, carefully, until it began to take form. Sometimes I caught myself whispering to the necklace, as if it were listening. You think you've won, I murmured, but you don't know what's coming. The necklace gleamed back at me, silent, complicit. I began to test her, dropping hints, watching her reactions. I asked questions I already knew the answers to, just to see if she would lie. She always did. And each lie fueled me. Each deception sharpened my resolve. Friends noticed my bitterness, but they didn't understand its source. You've changed, one said softly. You're not the same person anymore. I smiled faintly. Good. The old me was too trusting. She shook her head. But you're so cold now. Cold keeps me alive, I replied. The descent into darkness wasn't sudden, it was gradual, a slow unraveling of innocence, a steady climb into rage. I embraced it, welcomed it, let it consume me. Because I knew that only in darkness could I find the strength to face her. I stopped crying. I started planning. And though I won't tell you yet what that plan was, I will say this, it was meticulous. It was patient. It was inevitable. She thought she had destroyed me. She thought her betrayal had left me broken. But what she didn't realize was that betrayal doesn't end with devastation. It begins with it. And from devastation, something darker always rises. The plan was forming, piece by piece, and soon, it would be ready. The anticipation grew inside me. A fire I couldn't extinguish. I carried it with me everywhere, feeding it with every lie she told, every smile she faked, every word that didn't match her eyes. I stopped crying. I started planning, and soon, she would learn what that meant. Every move I made was a piece of the trap. The moment I accepted that my sister's betrayal was deliberate, something inside me shifted. I stopped thinking like the victim she wanted me to be. I began to think like the predator she never imagined I could become. Revenge wasn't just a desire, it became a necessity, a force that consumed me, shaping every thought, every action. I knew I couldn't confront her directly. She thrived on manipulation, on twisting words until they lost their meaning. If I accused her, she would laugh, deny, and turn the blame back on me. No, my plan had to be subtle, patient, and precise. I had to make her believe she was still in control, even as I quietly dismantled her world piece by piece. The first step was observation. I watched her closely, memorizing her routines, her habits. The people she spoke to when she thought I wasn't listening. I learned her patterns, the times she left the house, the places she visited, the lies she told to cover her tracks. Each detail became a thread in the web I was weaving. I began to test her, dropping small hints, asking questions that seemed innocent but carried weight. "Who were you talking to last night?" I'd ask casually, pretending disinterest. She would smile, shrug, and lie, and I would nod as if I believed her, but inside, I was cataloging every deception, every inconsistency. The second step was patience. I couldn't rush this. Revenge isn't about speed, it's about precision. I let her think she had won. Let her bask in the satisfaction of my silence. She believed I was broken, that her betrayal had left me powerless. But in reality, I was sharpening myself, turning my pain into a weapon she couldn't see. I started to plant seeds. Subtle comments to friends, small gestures that hinted at cracks in her facade. I didn't reveal the truth, not yet. Instead, I let suspicion grow around her, invisible to her but clear to me. People began to question her, to notice the inconsistencies I had long seen. And she, oblivious, continued her charade. Every move I made was a piece of the trap. The third step was control. I stopped reacting to her lies. I stopped showing emotion when she tried to provoke me. My silence became my shield, my composure my weapon. She grew frustrated, confused by my calmness. "You're different," she said once, her tone sharp. I smiled faintly. "Maybe I finally learned from you," she laughed, dismissing my words, but I saw the flicker of unease in her eyes. She didn't know what I meant, and that was the point. I began to gather information, quietly. Carefully, I listened to conversations, read between the lines. Pieced together the fragments of her scheme, the necklace, the lies, the manipulation. It was all part of something bigger, and though I didn't yet know the full scope, I knew enough to strike when the time was right. The fourth step was deception. I played the role she expected, the wounded sister, the broken girl. I let her believe I was still under her control, still blinded by her lies. I smiled when she lied, nodded when she dismissed me, pretended to trust her, and all the while, I was building the trap, brick by brick. Sometimes I whispered to myself, rehearsing the moment when she would finally realize what I had done. "You think you're clever," I murmured, "but you don't know me anymore." The plan wasn't just about exposing her, it was about making her feel the weight of her betrayal, about turning her own game against her. I wanted her to see the cracks in her world, to feel the same unease she had planted in me. I wanted her to question everything, to doubt herself, to realize too late that she had underestimated me. Every move I made was a piece of the trap. I won't tell you the details, not yet. Some secrets are better left hidden until the moment they strike. But I will say this, the plan was meticulous. Every word I spoke, every silence I held, every glance I gave was deliberate. She thought she was the puppeteer, but I had already cut the strings. The anticipation grew inside me, a fire that burned hotter with each passing day. I carried it with me everywhere, feeding it with her lies, her smiles, her false concern. She thought she had destroyed me. But what she didn't realize was that she had created something far more dangerous. I stopped being her sister, I became her shadow, her mirror, her reckoning. Every move I made was a piece of the trap, and when the time came, when the pieces finally aligned, she never saw it coming. Her scream was the sound of justice. The moment had been building for weeks, each lie she told tightening the snare I had woven around her. She thought she was clever, thought she had me under her thumb, but every word she spoke, every step she took, was another thread in the web I was spinning. And finally, the trap was ready. It began with a simple invitation. "Come over tonight," I said casually, my tone light, almost affectionate. "I want to talk. Just the two of us." She hesitated, her eyes narrowing. "Talk about what?" I smiled faintly. "About us. About everything," she agreed, though I could see suspicion flicker across her face. But she came anyway. She always underestimated me. When she arrived, I greeted her warmly, masking the storm inside me. The necklace glinted against my skin, a reminder of her betrayal, a symbol of the war between us. She noticed it, her smile curling. "You're still wearing it," she said. I touched the pendant deliberately. "Of course, it's part of me now." Her laugh was sharp, mocking. "I knew you couldn't resist." I led her inside, the air thick with tension. We sat across from each other, the silence stretching until it felt unbearable. Finally, I spoke. "You lied to me," I said softly. She tilted her head, feigning innocence. "About what?" "About everything," I whispered. "The necklace, the phone calls, the secrets." Her smile widened, but her eyes betrayed her. "You're imagining things again." I leaned forward, my voice steady. "No. I'm seeing clearly for the first time." She laughed, dismissing me, but I didn't flinch. Instead, I revealed the first piece of the trap. "I know who you've been talking to," I said. "I know what you've been planning." Her laughter faltered. You don't know anything, I smiled coldly, don't I? You've been careless. Too many lies, too many whispers. People talk, and I've been listening. Her face hardened, the mask slipping. So what? What are you going to do about it? That was when I struck. I pulled out the evidence I had gathered, messages, recordings, fragments of conversations she thought were hidden. I laid them out in front of her, each piece a dagger. Her eyes widened as she realized the depth of my knowledge, the precision of my plan. You thought you were destroying me, I said, my voice trembling with rage. But all you did was expose yourself. She reached for the papers, her hands shaking. You don't understand, no. I interrupted sharply. You don't understand. You betrayed me. You mocked me. You thought I was weak, but weakness doesn't cry forever. Weakness learns. Weakness becomes strength. Her scream tore through the room, raw and desperate, as the weight of her downfall crashed over her. It wasn't just fear, it was the sound of justice, the sound of a predator realizing she had become the prey. Her scream was the sound of justice. I stood over her, my voice cold. You wanted control. You wanted power. But now, everyone will see you for what you are, a liar. A manipulator, a fraud. She collapsed into silence, her eyes wide, her breath shallow. I could see the cracks forming, the walls she had built crumbling around her. And in that moment, I turned to you, the audience, the witness to my confession. Judge me if you want. Was I cruel? Was I justified? What would you have done if it were you? Because revenge isn't clean. It isn't simple. It's messy, raw, and it leaves scars. But sometimes, scars are the only proof that justice was served. She tried to speak, her voice trembling. You'll regret this. I leaned closer, my words sharp as a blade. No. You'll regret underestimating me. The silence that followed was heavy, suffocating. She sat there, broken, her mask shattered. And I stood, stronger than I had ever been, the necklace burning against my skin like a victory. Her scream was the sound of justice, and though the trap had sprung, though the climax had been reached, I knew this wasn't the end. Revenge doesn't end with a scream. It lingers, it festers. It reshapes everything. She never saw it coming, and now the aftermath awaited. Revenge doesn't heal, it scars. When the trap finally closed around her, when her lies collapsed under the weight of truth, I thought I would feel whole again. I thought the satisfaction of watching her scream, of seeing her mask shatter, would mend the wounds she had carved into me, but healing never came. What came instead was silence, heavy, suffocating silence that wrapped itself around me like a shroud. I carried the victory, yes, but it was a hollow kind of triumph. Every time I looked at her, broken and exposed, I felt the sting of what we had lost. She wasn't just my betrayer, she had been my sister. And no matter how much I hated her, no matter how much I wanted her to suffer, a part of me still remembered the nights we laughed together, the secrets we shared. The bond I once believed was unbreakable. That bond was gone now, replaced by bitterness. I walked through the days with a strange duality, satisfaction on one side, emptiness on the other. People noticed the change in me, though they didn't understand it. You seemed different, one friend said cautiously. I smiled faintly, but the smile didn't reach my eyes. Different is what happens when you've been betrayed, I replied. The necklace still hung around my neck, heavier than ever. It was no longer a symbol of her control, it was a reminder of my revenge. But even as I wore it, I wondered if it was binding me to her forever, keeping me tethered to the pain she had caused. Revenge doesn't heal, it scars. And scars don't fade easily. I found myself replaying the moment of her downfall, over and over, as if reliving it could bring me peace. But instead, it only deepened the bitterness. Her scream echoed in my mind, not as comfort, but as a reminder of the darkness I had embraced. Sometimes, late at night, I asked myself if I had gone too far. If exposing her, humiliating her, destroying her was truly justice, or if it was simply vengeance. I turned to you again, the unseen witness to my confession. Would you have done the same? Would you have let her suffer, or would you have walked away? Because I couldn't walk away. The satisfaction was real, but so was the toll. I had lost more than a sister, I had lost a part of myself. The innocence, the trust, the belief in family, all of it was gone, replaced by scars that would never fully heal. And yet, even in the bitterness, there was a strange kind of strength. I was no longer blind. I was no longer naive. I had faced betrayal and survived it, even if survival came at a cost. But what if she wasn't the only one? That question haunted me, lingering in the shadows of my mind. If she could betray me so completely, who else might be hiding secrets? Who else might be smiling while plotting my downfall? The thought gnawed at me, feeding the paranoia that had taken root in my heart. Revenge doesn't heal, it scars. And scars remind you that danger is always closer than you think. I carried that scar with me, knowing it would shape everything that came next. And as I looked toward the future, I realized that the story wasn't over. The aftermath was only the beginning of something darker, something unresolved. The price of revenge was heavy, but I had paid it. Now, the reflection awaited. So tell me, was I the villain or the victim? I've laid everything bare before you: the gift, the betrayal, the descent, the plan, the scream. You've seen me at my weakest, and you've seen me at my most ruthless. I've confessed the choices I made, the lies I uncovered, the trap I set. But now, as I sit here in the aftermath, I can't help but wonder how you see me. Was I justified in what I did? Or did I cross a line that should never be crossed? I think about the necklace often, the way it gleams against my skin, the way it carries the weight of everything that happened. To some, it might look like a simple piece of jewelry. To me, it's a scar made tangible, a reminder of the war between sisters, of the love that turned into poison. Revenge gave me strength. It gave me clarity. It gave me the power to take back control when she thought she had destroyed me. But it also left me hollow. It carved out pieces of me I can never get back. And that's the truth about revenge: it doesn't heal its scars. I wonder if you would have done the same. If you had been in my place, betrayed by the person you trusted most, would you have let it go? Would you have walked away, carrying the wound quietly, pretending it didn't exist? Or would you have fought back, even if fighting meant becoming someone darker, someone colder? I don't know if I became the villain in this story. Maybe I did. Maybe the moment I chose revenge, I surrendered the innocence that made me human. Or maybe I was always destined to be the victim, forced into a role I never asked for, pushed into choices I never wanted to make. So tell me, was I the villain or the victim? I leave that judgment to you. Because in the end, what matters isn't how I see myself, it's how you see me. You are the witness, the silent jury, the ones who decide whether my actions were justice or cruelty. And yet, even as I ask you to judge me, I can't shake the lingering questions. What if she wasn't the only one? What if betrayal runs deeper than I know? What if the scars I carry are only the beginning of something darker, something I haven't yet uncovered? The story doesn't end here. It never truly ends. Betrayal leaves echoes and revenge leaves shadows. They follow you, haunt you, remind you that trust is fragile, that love can turn into poison, that safety is the first illusion to shatter. So I sit here, scarred but unbroken, waiting for your judgment, waiting to know whether you see me as the villain who embraced darkness, or the victim who clawed her way back from annihilation. And I leave you with this unresolved truth: revenge gave me power, but it also took something I can never reclaim. So tell me, was I the villain or the victim? The answer is yours. The story remains unfinished. The scars remain, and the silence that follows is yours to fill.